Hi, everybody. This is Dawn Mitchell, and welcome to Dawn of Sports. We have an awesome show with a guest that's coming back. We've heard from her working for the Vikings, Lindsey Young, but now she has an exciting new venture that even if you're not a football fan or a sports fan, this affects everybody. So this will be a really great show to find out what's next on the docket.
This will be a great show. Again, Dawn of Sports is part of talknorth.com. Best way to listen to this show or any show you like at the network. Please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's easy. Alex Haugen is our producer today. And we're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We want to thank Natrium, natrium.com. We want to thank Minnesota Masonic Charities. And we want to introduce as a Talk North sponsor, Giggly THC Beverages, GIGLI.com. Check them out. They're great.
Well, today we're talking with Lindsey Young. She is a writer for the Vikings, Minnesota Vikings. You can read all of her stuff online. And also, a couple of years ago, instituted what I found to be just an amazing line of having a lot of the Vikings talk about mental health issues. And today, Lindsey has taken it a step further, writing her first children's book, following Olivia, which I hope is one of a whole series, but we're going to talk about that. How, Lindsey, first of all, welcome back.
Thank you.
You've been a little busy.
I know. I'm excited to be back with you guys. It's fun.
Oh, this is so great. And especially now you can take a breath now that the flurry of free agency is over.
It has been crazy.
Before we get into the book, people think, oh, it's the off season. You know, things are super easy. It's kind of been crazy over there for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think my favorite question is when people are like, oh, so what do you do in the off season? And I'm like, does the NFL have an off season?
Right.
No, we've been super busy with all of the, like you said, kind of the first wave or flurry of free agency. But it's been really fun. It's been fun to see the new players that are coming in and especially on the offensive and defensive line, some new names, and they've been in the building to sign their contracts, and I've gotten to meet a few of them, and they all seem like great guys, which is no surprise, I don't think, to any of us here that, you know, the Vikings are bringing in some high character guys. And so, yes, we've been super, super busy, but I have been able to take a little bit of a breath this week and just looking forward to kind of seeing what comes next.
I saw one of the posts you did recently with about Harrison Smith, with him coming back for his 14th year and how you first met him before you were even writing for the Vikings, right? Sometimes those full circle moments are the best, aren't they?
Yeah, it's crazy because when I first met him in person was in 2013, I believe, or early 2014, I think. But so he had been here for 2 years, and I met him just kind of as a fan. I used to do a lot of volunteer work at Fan HQ, if anyone's been there. And so he was doing an autograph signing there, an event. And so I had helped out and then was there at the event afterwards and took a photo with him. And so I had to go back and find that after I wrote the story of he's coming back for his 14th season because he looked like such a baby in that photo.
Yes.
We had no idea who each other were, that we would ever work together. So it definitely is full circle, but we're really excited to have Harry coming back.
I had one of those full circle moments recently popping up as a memory was me and Eric Wilson.
Yes.
And it was from 7 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
So I said 7 years ago, but 5 since he's been with the Vikings. Welcome back. And he sends me a message back on Instagram like, thanks, you know, I'm like, just high quality people, like you said.
We were joking that it made us feel old that we're bringing back Eric Wilson. Because he's one of our favorites. So excited to have him back too. But yeah, it's crazy how fast time goes.
Jim, does it make you feel old?
Everything makes me feel old.
You're not old.
I've covered sons of people who I once covered. So that's when you feel old.
Okay.
Yeah. And
fair.
now that some of your, when you covered them as players, they're now coaches and you're like, you didn't know me then. That's what you have to say. You didn't know me.
I mean, if we want to start telling stories about what makes you feel old, we're going to need more time.
Well, One thing that can really kind of take the energy away is trying to work on a whole nother project while you're in the thick of a football season. And that's what you've been doing. So what was the catalyst for you to decide, I really want to do a children's book? You told me that it was inspired by your nephew, Oliver, but that's a huge undertaking to do, but it goes hand in hand with a lot of the things that you were doing with the Vikings as well.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, we did the Getting Open series with the Vikings, and that was already back in 2021, which is crazy that it's been that long already. And we've kind of kept it going since then, here and there when we can, and when we have content around that. And I've always kind of wanted to do something for kids in that mental health space, but like didn't really know what that would look like. And I think just didn't really have enough juice behind it to make it happen. It was kind of one of those one day sort of ideas. And so it was inspired by my nephew, Oliver. So he just turned 8 on January 1st. And he is the sweetest kid with the biggest heart. He's so funny. He's a wrestler, so really fun. So proud of him. But he's had some pretty significant challenges with anxiety. And I was a really anxious kid too. And when I was 14, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. And so when I see certain challenges that he's facing, like I relate to him, but it also makes my heart ache a little bit that he's having those challenges. But it's a little bit of a two-sided coin where like I see the challenges that he's facing, and I think the world is just a tough place right now for anybody, let alone for kids. But then on the flip side, I look at like all the amazing support that he has from my sister and brother-in-law, from some of their family friends, from even support like within the school and things like that, and like how helpful that is for him. And he was telling me once about how he had told a friend that he had a nervous tummy ache, and the friend kind of responded with something not intended to be malicious, but kind of like, that's weird, or I don't get that, it's sort of around those lines. And so I wanted to do something that, yes, would like help kids who have anxiety and help them to kind of feel seen and not alone, but also to help kids who aren't anxious kiddos, but maybe they have friends who are. And so they can better understand like what their friends might be going through, or that this is a very normal thing, even though it might not be something that they experience. And so I decided to write this children's book, Olivia the Brave, and I am so excited about it. So it's totally separate from my work with the Vikings, but I feel like the platform that the Vikings gave me to do Getting Open, like gave me the confidence to do something like this, and that there would be a market for something like this. And so I think it's been like 15 or 16 months since I sort of committed to doing it. And I texted 2 of my friends that night and I said, I'm going to write a children's book, because I was like, if I put this in writing, now I have to do it. I told them I was going to. And so that's kind of like that's what got the ball rolling.
Right. Accountability, right? It always works.
Exactly. That's what got the ball rolling.
When you look at Oliver, and like you said, it's a two-sided coin, but your heart just kind of bursts. Did you recognize it in yourself? Do you think maybe that you had anxiety before you even found out at 14? And have you been reflecting back then on some of those stories? Like, I wish I knew that when I was 8.
Oh, absolutely. Like I look back and I was such an anxious child, like some of those same things that I've seen Oliver get nervous about. Because I can remember like, just thinking that I looked at the world in a little bit different way. So I felt like, going to a sleepover, like that was something that was really exciting and like, quote, easy for my friends. And I wanted to do that. But just the idea of like being away from home, being away from my parents, like that was scary and anxiety inducing. And my parents, especially my mom, recognized that in me at a young age. So I had a lot of support from them, but I think it just wasn't talked about as much back then. And they're really like, I am by no means like the first one to do a children's book on this, but there really are not a lot of options out there for especially kids this age. So Olivia the Brave is for ages 4 to 8. There's a lot of great options for like kind of the preteen, teenager, junior high age group. There's some really great like graphic novels out there about mental health, but not a ton in like the picture book kids genre. So I was like, I think that this is something that's really needed. And I think also because you don't have to have like a diagnosed condition to be someone who gets anxious about something. And so hopefully this will be helpful for kids, whether or not they grow up to be anxious adults. I did, but maybe not everybody will. And so I wanted to make it a story that's fun, that, is an enjoyable, approachable story to read, but that also kind of gently like introduces this topic of anxiety and mental health.
When you decided you want to do this, did you say I have to talk to maybe some medical professionals about how I approach this? And is this the first of like a series maybe?
So people have asked me that and I'm like, whoa, let's see how
let's
this
get the
first one gets off the ground. Potentially.
Yeah.
Because it's been really fun, but it also has been like more than I anticipated, I think in a good way.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. But I talked to a few different people in my life who do work either generally in the mental health space or specifically with kids and mental health. And so it was helpful to be able to talk to them, have a few of them like read the manuscript and give me feedback on it. And then it was just really helpful to talk to other people who had done books or specifically children's books, because like I write for a living, but like I don't write for children, and publishing is an entirely new adventure for me. And so I was able to talk with Joe Schmidt here in the Twin Cities, who did Joe Mauer's children's book with him. I have a couple of other people kind of in my life circle that knew people who had done children's books. And so that was awesome, just to kind of pick people's brains on what this process would look like and what questions I needed to ask, and trying to find a publisher. And so it would kind of like opened up this whole new world for me that I had no idea what I was getting into.
But that's a good thing, right? It kind of stretched your boundaries at the same time.
It totally stretched my boundaries. Like it's been a lot of personal growth. Like it's given me like a new appreciation for the whole industry. Looking for an illustrator was really fun, and finding that, like, it's been an absolute blast.
When you were doing the text of the book, I love how you brought up that, okay, there might be a lot of anxious kids, but it's also for the friends, the kids that may not understand, to have a proper response. Because that's normal to be like,
right,
I don't get what that means.
Exactly.
Like, what's an anxious tummy?
Yeah.
How was that to kind of put on their hat? As an adult, kind of looking it through a child's lens that way.
So one of the kind of practices that I had to do with the publisher was to fill out this whole questionnaire about audience for the book. So it was really easy at first to be like, oh yeah, kids who get anxious. And then it was like, but there were all these questions that pressed you to really talk about it and to put yourself in other people's shoes. And so it was like, okay, I also want a child who is really confident and likes new experiences and doesn't tend to be anxious. Like, I want them to be able to sit down and also enjoy reading this book, enjoy the story, and be able to better understand their peers. I wanted it to be something that parents could enjoy reading with their kids, because the fact that it's for ages 4 through 8, like I understand that there could be kids who are reading this themselves, and there could be kids who are having it read to them by an adult or an older child. And so like, kind of like you said, putting myself in other people's shoes and figuring out how I wanted this to be perceived by different populations was really cool.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Let's take a quick break here to thank Natrium, Natreum, Natrium and Wildflower Shops. There are 2 wildflower shops right near me. They're basically the same thing as Natrium. You can find any THC or CBD product that you want. I love the balms for joint and muscle soreness, the drinks for fun, the gummies for fun, the candies for fun. but also they have oils that'll help your gut and your digestion. They have quick fix, what they call quick fix stuff that'll help you with anxiety, with stress, no matter how that stress is caused in your life. And this is clean stuff. It's low number of ingredients, all natural, and you're going to feel really good afterward. So I highly recommend it. And they have so many different products, so many different dosages, flavors. I really recommend going to a Natrium or Wildflower shop, talking to a sales professional and having them steer you toward what will be best for you. The first time you walk in there, there's so many choices. You really need some help. Now that I have it narrowed down, I know exactly what I like to eat, drink, and use on my body, and it's made a big difference for me. Natrium.com, Natreum.com. Thanks also to Minnesota Masonic Charities.
When people think of the Freemasons, they often think of secret handshakes and unusual hats, and of course, the pancake breakfast. Minnesota Masonic Charities would prefer that you think about the work that they do right here in our community. Places like the Masonic Cancer Center at the University of Minnesota or the Masonic Children's Hospital and the Masonic Home in Bloomington. They are just a few examples of the important work that the Freemasons support here in Minnesota. As part of the largest fraternal organization in the world, Masons have consistently answered the call when it comes to charitable needs. I am happy that Minnesota Masonic Charities has chosen Minnesota Bound and this podcast as a place to help spread the word. We look forward to learning so much more about their many programs here in the weeks to come.
And a reminder, a lot of the shows on this network are now sponsored by Giggly THC Beverages. It's great stuff. My wife and I drink them all the time. GIGLI.com. You can find them in Quick Trips. You can find them all across the Twin Cities in all kinds of different stores. Or you can go to GIGLI.com and they will deliver.
Eat, drink, and be merry, right, Jim?
Or just drink and be merry.
And CBD is very helpful for anxiety. I use it
really
myself.
Is. I do too.
Totally.
Yeah, I do.
Coming off that, I was going to ask you that because I saw you nodding and smiling. How does that help?
Yeah, I will use CBD for if I'm feeling really anxious, especially in the evenings. It will just help me to feel a little bit calmer and be able to fall asleep. So that has been a huge help for me.
Do you do the
CBD products?
Other drinks?
I've done the THC beverages, but my preference is just CBD gummies.
Okay.
And that will help me just kind of chill if it doesn't make me feel any different, but it kind of just calms me down. So that's been really helpful for me.
It's like when I got LASIK and they said, do you want a Valium? And I've never had any of that stuff, but I'm like, yeah. And it was that weird where you're like, oh, you're fully awake. You know that they're giving you LASIK surgery on your eye, but you're just observing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was kind of weird.
Yeah.
So
it's been helpful for me.
Yeah. I think that's great. You brought up an interesting thing. Let me just reintroduce you to people that are listening. This is Lindsey Young, staff writer for the Minnesota Vikings, where she's done a whole series called Getting Open, where just very great stories about mental health from players and coaches. And it really touched my heart years ago when you started that. Now she has written a book called Olivia the Brave, which I hope is the first of a series. I'm just throwing that out there, not meaning to put pressure on you. But I really love when people just decide, you know what? I have an inspiration in my life. I have gone through something myself. I want to put this onto a totally different character because I know you're inspired by Oliver, but you didn't want to make it a boy, right? To put that kind of pressure on him, maybe? Is that it?
Yeah, I think I just wanted it to feel like it was based on kind of a combination of his experiences and my experiences and a couple other people's. So I wanted it to feel inspired by him, but without specifically being about him.
Yes.
So the family is different than Oliver's. The dynamics are different, but I wanted it to sort of have that connection. And so it was really fun to figure out the name and decide what I wanted to do. I had always really loved the name Olivia for a girl. And then my sister has an Oliver, of course. And so the character was fun to kind of develop. The character is blonde, which is not really a family trait, although Oliver and his siblings were blonde when they were younger. I guess my niece is blonde. She has curly hair. I had really curly hair when I was younger. So I wanted it to feel more inspired by different people than specifically about one person. But I did put my dog Tater in the book.
I did notice. I was wondering if that was Tater.
So Tater is in the book. And when we did character sketches and revisions, like we spent the most time on Tater because like she's like a real thing to me, a real dog. And so, so we did have to put Tater in the book.
What I think the book is going to be wonderful too is I think a lot of parents are searching for answers when they're young kids. You don't want to jump and just say, oh my gosh, they have anxiety. Or is this a normal behavior for this age group, right? So I think that book can also alleviate maybe some of the pressure on parents and help them guide them to what could be right or wrong.
Yeah, I hope so. And I think also the idea that I think a couple different things. Like one, a diagnosis does not have to be a scary thing.
Yeah.
It does not have to be like a label or how that person is identified. For me, like when I received a diagnosis when I was 14, like I actually found that very freeing because it just helped me to feel not alone and to read about other people's experiences that were similar to mine. But also I think this book does not it doesn't have to be that you were diagnosed with a condition, but I think anxiety, fear, worry, those are things that we all experience, but some people experience them at a higher level than others. And so if this is something that, your child is going through, whether maybe it's just a short phase, maybe it's something that was triggered by a difficult experience, maybe it's been something that you've seen all along. I think for any of those instances, this will just be a book that hopefully feels relatable and makes the idea and concept of anxiety a non-scary thing. It's just one challenge that some people deal with. And in the book, we talk about this idea of everybody having different abilities and everybody having different challenges. And sometimes those abilities and or challenges are things that we can see, and sometimes they're invisible. And so in the book, Olivia's best friend, she wears glasses because she needs help to be able to see better. And so that's a tool that can help her. Or their next door neighbor, he uses a wheelchair. And so those glasses in a wheelchair are things that we can see. But maybe if somebody has anxiety, they use a nightlight or they use a breathing app on their phone, and those are just tools, like somebody using glasses or a wheelchair. And so that was sort of part of the messaging as well.
Because it's hard because you can't see.
Right.
Exactly. It's invisible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to, the naked eye, to people seeing it outside, right?
Right.
That's the hard part.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where the idea of, when people read the book, they'll see, but kind of this idea of Olivia the Brave being, because she has these invisible abilities that she works with just like a superhero would. Mm-hmm. And so that's sort of where the idea came in. And just, something that is fun for kids, hopefully, and can relate to playing superheroes or playing princess or, just kind of that play world.
I think a lot of people, not only kids, especially after the COVID shutdown, lockdown, pandemic, and then everything going on in our world, all the different things around the globe, that I've even noticed so many adults now not even realizing gosh, this used to never bother me before. Mm-hmm. Now I have to sit and I forget the word for it, but my friend Nadine and I, we said, oh my gosh, I do that. Do you do that? And I never did it before.
Drink?
We sit in our car, drink, maybe, well, we don't drink in our cars.
That's all I meant.
Giggly.
Just CBD. Yeah.
But sit in my car before I'll go home from work and I pull into the garage and the door is closed and I shut off the car and then I literally am disconnecting my phone from Bluetooth or picking up, and then I sit in my car and I just sometimes just sit there on my phone.
Yeah.
And some people say that that's some sort of a I don't know, not a paralysis, but this mental thing where you're just there's a term for it and I'm forgetting right now. I'll probably remember halfway through, but I'm oh, I do that. Mm-hmm. And I didn't notice that I did that until friends said, sometimes I just don't get out of my car right away.
Yeah.
And I used to think, okay, parents, that want to take that breather,
Yeah, right.
in between like work and
Yeah.
going back into their house of kids. I
Right.
get that, but I don't have kids.
Mhm.
I'm like, so why is that? It's not even analysis paralysis because
Yeah.
I'm just kind of scrolling
Yeah.
or just sitting there like, okay, I gotta get out of the car.
Yeah.
And then I realize it's from sometimes really stressful, and it's
Mhm.
not even at work. It's just stressful things going on in the world. So I
Right.
think adults now that never even had to deal with, I was never an anxious kid.
Yeah.
I never found myself to be an anxious adult. But sometimes, you find yourself like, okay, I got to get out of my head right
Yeah.
now and then get back into my body.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's helpful for little kids to realize that everybody, they're all dealing with something.
Exactly. Yeah. To feel like this is something that kids of all ages experience, that adults experience, that there's different things that can be helpful. There is a piece in the book that talks about sometimes medicine can be helpful, but you don't have to take medicine. Like just the idea that it doesn't look the same for everybody. One of my favorite pieces of this process was writing like the bones of the book and then taking it to my sister and Oliver and reading it out loud to him without illustrations or anything. And then kind of letting his brain think on it. And it was kind of like, what things have I missed here? What things do you find helpful to sort of like let this be a collaborative effort between the two of us? There's like a weighted stuffed animal in the book that's kind of like the one that Oliver has. And so Oliver got to name the one that's in the book. The nightlight thing that I brought up, I had gone through the different things that help Olivia, and Oliver said, well, I think you forgot her nightlight. And so it was like, all right, we're
There you
adding in
go.
a nightlight. That's helpful. Things that I didn't think of. And so it was this really sweet, like bonding experience for him and me as well. And, he did ask if his name was going to go in the book. He said, you better put it in the beginning or the end, because if it's in the middle, people might get confused if it's part of the story or not. So
Like
he
a
had-
forward.
he had
Look how
some
smart
thoughts on
he
it.
is.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's really fun to see him so open about it and excited about this too. And, like I said, he's a really tender-hearted kid. And so to be able to help other people to him is exciting as well.
Oh, I'm just getting all the feels
Yeah,
about that.
yeah.
Every time I saw the illustrations for the first time, because I knew you were working on it, and then to see the illustrations, I'm like, that's almost exactly what I was envisioning in my head.
Yeah.
Which
Mhm.
is so cool for someone. I haven't even read the whole book because it's not even out till May, right?
Right. Yes.
So
Yes.
you just the parts that you might have mentioned to
Mhm.
us. So is that kind of like exciting for you that you have like this baby that you're going to present to the world in May?
It honestly is. Like, I am so excited I don't know what it's going to feel like to like actually like hold a book in my hand and have
Yeah.
it be a real thing. Even just like seeing because the illustration process was kind of a multi-step process. So like I saw some of the main characters first, we worked on those. Then I saw like a few of the scenes, but like the first time that I got to see the full interior, or the work that the illustrator and I did on finalizing the cover, like that was so fun because, even in the work that I do with the Vikings, a lot of times it's, you're writing the copy and you're maybe pulling a photo or two from the game or something to go with it. But to see how they put it all into this book is so cool. And I am just jazzed about getting it out. We are planning to launch it in early May because I wanted to kick off Mental Health Awareness Month with this. So that's why like the timing was important to me. And it's been really, really exciting to have Wise Inc. is the publisher that I'm working with. And it's been so exciting too to like see how on board they are with the timing, with the passion, with the messaging of it. So it's just been absolutely incredible.
What's the feedback been from like the Vikings, from your family? It must be fantastic.
Yeah, it is so fantastic. My family has been super supportive. It's really exciting I already mentioned Oliver, but just kind of doing this together as a family has been really fun. And the Vikings have just been so awesome too. I mean, even though this isn't like through my role with them. It's been so cool to see like the support that they've given. I've been able to ask different people advice, like people in partnerships or my friends that work in True North, the Vikings internal design team, and just to get feedback and support from them has been really, really cool. And, you know, like a couple of sponsors have come on board, Prairie Care Fund, who I absolutely love the work that they do for kids in schools. Like they've come on as a sponsor, and Change Starts With Me that Kyle Rudolph used to work with.
Yes.
Thomson Reuters is joining as a sponsor. So like it is so cool to see like the community support around this and just the way that it's all coming together.
When I first saw you come out with the Getting Open series, and I was thinking that's going to be so difficult to get people to open up and talk about this. And then you got so many. I don't know, is it about the organization? What it is, you have to have the players and the coaches specifically who are willing to talk, but to actually go there and let it breathe.
Yeah.
Is a gift.
It really is, because I actually was just sharing about the Getting Open series with someone today. And I was talking about how it got started, and it got started just based on a conversation that I had with Jalen Holmes, who he's with the Commanders now, but just like the fact that he was willing to share his story. And it started out as going back to the Vikings PR and communications team and saying like, hey, what do you think about telling this story of Jalen? He's very comfortable with it. And it was like, they were the ones who came back not only in support, but saying like, could we make this larger? Like, what do you think about expanding this?
Yes.
And so, you know, I do think that just across the board, it's becoming more acceptable, like in society, to talk about mental health. I think there's a lot of professional athletes who have come out and shared their story, which helps empower other people. But it just makes me happy to see like that support here and just across the board, like people being so open about it.
And how has this whole process helped you?
Oh man. I think it's just like, it's been so helpful to me. I think it's just been another reminder to how like on board with this topic people are. And I think like I was really excited to do it at the beginning, but like it's even more exciting now as I talk to other people about it, as I really think about, like we were just saying about how this can help not only kids, but parents, other adults who want to, you know, get the book, and also just in conversations with people I've been talking with, coworkers or other friends that I know, and they'll say like, oh, you know, like my neighbor's daughter would love this book, or I find this would be really helpful. Like, you know, kind of like with Getting Open, you're having these stories come out of the woodwork of specific people that this book might impact, and not just sort of this like idea in the sky.
Yeah.
And so it's been a huge encouragement to me. I think it's helpful when I have bad mental health days to just like remind myself that even though I have this struggle, like I'm able to use it to help other people. And that's huge.
What would be your message to people your age or even younger kids where if they're not quite sure, you know, like you said, you felt like you saw the world a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your advice to them to make them feel like, you know, it's different, but it might be the same as someone else. Like you're not alone that way.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing. Like I said, I specifically did receive a diagnosis, and that might not be the situation for everybody. But when I did, I felt like I wasn't alone, because I could find, you know, things online written about this condition or what people experience. And so like, I would just tell anybody, whether it's anxiety that you're experiencing or something else, to talk to people, whether it be someone who is a professional or a parent or a teacher or a friend, because you just never know when you're going to find somebody that you relate to, or you go, oh my gosh, yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like it feels like you're in my head right now. Like that feeling is so freeing to realize that you're not alone. And like, I promise you, whatever you are dealing with, thinking about, worried about, like, you are not alone. Someone has already had that thought. I'm sorry, but it's not original. And so I just think like connection is is so huge. And so like that would be my number one message.
Well, Lindsey, thank you, because I'm so excited to look forward to Olivia the Brave, hoping that Olivia has 1, 2, 3, 4, like a whole series of books.
I hope so too. We'll see.
Yeah. You never know,
Yeah.
right? Next thing you know, like Olivia's hanging out with Jalen Holmes, you know,
Yeah,
like you just don't know,
exactly.
right? I'll have ideas for you. I'll send them down for you.
Okay, great. I'll look for those.
But if anyone has ever read anything that you have written, you get to the heart of what makes people tick. You have this way about you that allows people to open up. If someone hasn't told you, your writing is amazing. You're so
Thank you, Dawn.
talented. You bring it out in succinct ways that people can understand, but also you get to the heart of it. And Jim can attest, it's really hard sometimes when you're limited by a column or words or space or even a children's book to convey
that
a
was
message.
hard.
It's hard.
Yeah.
But you were brilliant at it. And I
Well,
just
thank
really
you.
want to give you your flowers. If sometimes you always feel like maybe people don't notice, but I do.
Thank you, Dawn.
Yeah.
That means the world.
Yeah. So best of luck to you
Thank
and
you.
Olivia the Brave.
Yeah.
I'm so
Thank you guys.
excited.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for having me on. And in about a month here, we'll have an actual book.
All right. In May, right?
Yeah, in
Coming
May.
up in May. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Congratulations, Lindsey.
Thank you.